All right, tell me a short checklist of what you're telling agents that are in the business now. They're 5, 6, 7 years, and they're working at some level. My experience was always that it was very difficult to take someone from here to here. And a lot of that's because it works for them in their life. Once they get to that plateau, now this is working for me, and to go from there to the next level is to change a lot. But what are those changes that you see a person needing to make?
Well, one of the things that I see is folks that just lack a willingness to change.
Right.
My day to day is not what it was 10 years ago. In 10 years from now, it won't be what it is now. So I think what a lot of realtors do is what a lot of people do. They make enough money to get by, to pay their bills, and they're happy. And hey, if that's what they want to do and that makes them happy, good for them. It's never been my goal. But you have to be willing to change and adapt. And now the change in the business is upon us. It's being forced, right? So you can either take it like, oh, it's being rammed down my throat, I don't like it, or you know what? I'm going to embrace this change. I'm going to dominate this change. I'm going to learn this change. And if you're a realtor that's at a company that's not training on how to deal with this, that's not training you on getting buyer agency agreements or buyer contracts or how to get paid, how to negotiate that commission into the transaction, if you're not at a company that's doing those kinds of things, you need to go to another company.
Yeah.
Period. You got no time left.
Yep.
It's June 11th. These changes take effect August 17th. At our company, we're making the changes August 1. That's it. August 1, the new way of business is the way we're doing business.
Got it. Got it. Let's a couple quick just discussions about when you changed business models. You went from your team to a company, and then you had your one office. Then you got into multiple offices. And just a message for guys that are building companies out there. I know one office to multiple offices was a game changer for me personally.
You mean with
Uh,
growth?
with your growth, yeah. So I mean, just
Oh,
just in terms
I
of
mean, listen, these companies that brag about being virtual, it's kind of funny. They brag about that, but then their large team leaders all have offices. I mean, right? Look at
right,
EXP. EXP, great company. I'm super impressed with them. The CEO, Leo Pareja, is a personal friend for 20 years. They talk about being virtual, and they've been smart. They've invested their money in places that they don't have to have offices. But do you notice all their big teams have their own office?
right,
You need offices. You need to be
right,
around people. You got to get your people together.
yeah.
If your people aren't together, they'll infight. That's the other thing. Everybody's a keyboard tough guy. Everybody's a tough guy over Zoom, but when they're getting together, getting in a room, bumping into each other in the kitchen, the lunchroom, things happen. And if you want to grow your market share in specific markets, right, you have to be willing to open offices in those markets. Now, what we have found, and I'll tell a little secret, a little Lamacchia Realty secret.
Yeah.
When we open offices in high transaction, working class communities that have at least one, preferably two, major highway running through, we kick ass. When we don't, we don't.
Interesting.
If I look back in the last 9 years since we started off opening offices, anytime I had an office that didn't work out, it's because we were in a pocket town. We were, the highways were 3 towns over. It was a small community, kind of niche community. No. High transactions, at least one highway, preferably two, working class community. That's our model. Now, some of the luxury companies, they like to be in the luxury towns. Good for them. But those towns tend to be lower transaction. They tend not to have highways. That's not our model.
That's interesting. That's the first time I've heard that one. I've got a rule. I call it Rogers Real Estate Rule number one, and that is that your income is directly proportionate to how many people know you, like you, and trust you. And my whole logic behind the CRM system back when we started in the '80s was, you have to manage more people, more information. I believe that our business is one where you sell your credibility, you manage information to get there. And so the CRM system was really about saying, how do I go from managing, 20, 30, 40 names to 400, maybe 4,000 names?
Let me tell you a story, Roger. Oh, go ahead. Were you done?
No, no, I want you to play on that.
Let me tell you a story. When I first got in the business, one of the many things I learned from working with my dad was you have to have a database and you have to market to your database. Okay. My dad did a great job with that for years. He's a postcard direct mail fanatic, right? Fanatic. And when I got in the business in '04, I was so determined to build my database that I used two things. I used MLS because I could look up people's addresses, and I would manually type the people's information into Agent Office, which is one of the earliest CRMs, as you
Right.
know, it was Remaxes, right? So I would manually type them in. Then I ran out of names. I said, I can't think of who else. I would drive around my town and the surrounding towns because I found that driving around triggered my memory with, oh, the Johnsons live over there, the Franks live over there, the Hanses live over there. And I would make notes. And I'd get home and I'd look the people up and I'd add them to my database. Okay. By the time I was probably 3 months, 4 months into the business, which was like maybe it was November '04, I had over 1,000 people in my database that I was sending postcards to every single month.
Right.
To this day, my sphere of influence gets a postcard every single month.